Hey guys, one of the major issues we have to deal with on this topic of law enforcement and autism is the fact that the behaviors that our guys on the spectrum show and present with a lot of times mimic what we are trained in the police academy to be under the influence of narcotics or alcohol. It's a serious issue and gets us into trouble. And I want to show you a video that will show this to you and walk you through this in real time. And I want you to watch this officer's training and experience fail him in real time. All right. Now, some background, because I think context is important. The officer you're about to see has been on the job about 8 years. He's from Arizona, and this incident happened in 2017. 8 years on a job, very aggressive cop. He leads his department in DWI arrests. Multiple commendations and citations for proactive, aggressive motor vehicle enforcement activity. He earned the Impaired Driving Enforcement Officer of the Year from his governor a couple years prior to this event. I don't know the man. I don't know the officer, but his background and his resume is now public due to the lawsuit based on the event you're about to see. But that tells a story of this officer. He's an aggressive officer. DWI is important to him. Motor vehicle enforcement is important to him. He's also a DRE. If you don't know, a DRE is a drug recognition expert. It's an advanced training that officers can go to learn how to assess and investigate what narcotic somebody is under the influence of. It's advanced training, very clinical, but very technical in nature. They basically used things like pulse, respiratory rate, pupil dilation, blood pressure, things like that to assess somebody and be able to determine if they're on a hallucinogenic or an opioid or a depressant or a stimulant or whatever narcotic they may have taken. So it's an advanced class. So that tells you a story about this officer. He's an aggressive guy. Obviously, narcotics enforcement's important to him. Motor vehicle enforcement's important to him. The background of this incident is he was patrolling a park in his city. Apparently, it's a park known to have narcotics activity involved in it. He sees a young man acting out of ordinary. He sees a young man pacing, talking to himself. And as per his report, he says the young man was bringing his hands to his face, consistent with what his training and experience tells him is consistent with, how does he put it, inhalants. Somebody taking inhalants. So basically the kid was walking around talking to himself, pacing and going like this in front of his face. This officer pulls up to the park. He sees this. You know what he's thinking. You know the mindset. You know what he's thinking. He's thinking this guy is high on drugs. He's got narcotics on him, and he's approaching him with that on his brain. Now watch what happens.
What's going on?
Me?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Good.
What are you doing?
I'm skimming.
What?
How are you doing with this?
What is that? Stop
That's-
walking away from me.
It's a stream.
Okay, so why are you bouncing around all the way? You have any ID on you?
No.
Don't go anywhere. All right, just relax.
Are you okay? Are you okay? I'm okay! I'm okay!
Stay down.
I'm okay! I'm okay!
As a father, that wrecks me. As a father, I see my son's face in that young man, and it's hard. It's hard to watch. I wear two hats. I wear a police hat and a dad hat. And one of the things I wrestle with is navigating both those worlds. And this is where it's hard for me because as a dad, that buckles me. And I'm watching that young man's entire world crumble around him, and he has no idea what's happening. because of the context of you watching this video, you know what happened. The young man's on the spectrum. He was minding his own business, and this went from 0 to 100 in well, it's literally 56 seconds. So let's rewind it. Let's see what happened. Obviously, you know what kind of mindset the officer is in. He thinks he has a drug user. He thinks he has somebody he's going to arrest, or maybe have dope on him, maybe a weapon, whatever. He approaches him, and he asks him, "What are you doing?" We've all done that 1,000 times. And the kid answers him. The kid gives him an answer, and it's a legitimate answer. It's a factual answer. Did you catch it? The kid says, "I'm stimming."
What are you doing? What?
The kid says, "I'm stimming."
What is that?
Now, this is the root of all of this. If you don't know what stimming is and you are watching this video, you need to take my training. If you do know what stimming is, you now go, "Oh man, this officer didn't know what stimming was." Even though this person was telling him what it was, he didn't know. He had never heard it before. In his mind, he was thinking, narcotics, stimming, what is that? Is that some new word the kids are using for some inhalant? He was in that mindset of narcotics. The kid says, "I'm stimming." What stimming is self-stimulatory behavior. Stimming is what you're doing right now while you're listening to this and watching this and your leg is bouncing. Or you're playing with a pen. Or you're picking at your fingernails. Or you're playing with your hair. We all do it. Stimming is something our body needs to get sensory input to keep us grounded emotionally, to keep us focused, to soothe ourselves, just to keep us in a moment. We all do it to some level. Stimming to somebody on the spectrum is critical. It's more pronounced. For somebody on the spectrum, their sensory system is dysregulated in some way. And stimming, the self-stimulatory behavior, is a way they can use to soothe and regulate themselves. So for anybody on the spectrum, any family member of somebody on the spectrum, stimming is a part of our world, and we all know it. We all live it. One way somebody stims is a fixation on movement, on an object, or on details. So this kid says flat out, "I'm stimming." My son wouldn't be able to self-advocate like that. He wouldn't be able to say that. This kid has self-awareness enough to say, "I'm stimming," but it didn't register with the officer. He says, "I'm stimming on a string." Let's play it. "I'm stimming on a string."
Walking away from me.
It's a string.
It's a string.
So why are you bouncing around all the way?
It still doesn't register. The kid shows him it's a string. It's not narcotics. It's not a blunt. It's string. The guy, it still doesn't register with the officer. Oh, well, okay, what does that mean? Why are you bouncing around like that? He has no idea what he's walking into because his mindset is narcotics, 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 bad guy, bad guy, bad guy, arrest, arrest, arrest. And he had never heard these terms before. So this kid answers, I'm stimming with a string. He sees the string. No, he still goes forward. Narcotics, narcotics, narcotics.
What are you doing?
Now, watch this.
What?
How are you doing with this?
Every cop here
Stop
saw
walking away from
that.
me.
The kid backs up, he turns around.
Okay.
What you're
Why are you
thinking as a
bouncing around
cop
all
is this kid's going to jet. He's going to
any
run.
idea on
He's got something on him and he's
anywhere.
about to run. I'm about to get into a foot
Alright, just
pursuit.
relax.
So I understand this here. I understand when your mindset is on this is a bad guy who's going to run. I understand the mindset of, okay, I got to stop him from fleeing. I'm going to detain him. Right? So the officer does that. I understand it. Don't want to make a mistake of saying that I don't. I understand the mindset, giving the information he had at the time. So he goes to detain him. He tells him to turn around.
Don't go anywhere.
He goes to handcuff him, and then it goes
Okay.
down to
I'm okay.
twos.
I'm okay.
Now, what is that kid saying? This is what really gets to me. You're hearing that kid say, "I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay." Do you know what that is? That kid is reverting back to what his parents, his teachers, his therapists, his doctors, and everybody around him growing up has told him to do when he feels anxious and scared. They have taught him that when he feels these emotions, to go through this mantra of "I'm okay." So this kid's entire world is crumbling around him. He has no idea what's happening. And he's doing what his parents told him to do, which is chant to himself, "I'm okay." And he's doing exactly what my son would do. As a cop, I get it, right? I get it. I've been there. I've been that cop. Approaching somebody in a park that I was 100% convinced through my training and experience that he was up to no good. And 9 times out of 10, you're right. That one time you're wrong, it can go bad. So this isn't to criticize. This isn't to be critical of this officer. I don't know the guy. I don't know him. My gut tells me I know a lot of him, a lot of officers like him. He's an aggressive, narcotics-oriented officer following his training and instincts. And it led to something bad happening. And I just keep thinking that if he had just heard that word before, stimming, if he had only heard that word somewhere before, not even understanding what it meant, just heard it before, in the context of the autism spectrum, would that have been enough to short circuit this? And by the way, this goes on. I'll give you the link to continue watching it. Mom shows up. And Mom explains to the cop, "My son is autistic. He was stimming." And the cop says flat out, "Ma'am, I don't know what that means." And if you haven't guessed already, $5 million is the lawsuit. Be safe.
Because he's doing something with his hands and something in his hands.
Stimming.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
It's when you have autism, it's just nerves.
Okay,
Oh my god.
that's fine.